it that Sharife Cooper hasn't done that I can say he should do to say that he's done it all? Everything. He's done everything. He's scored a lot of assists. The only thing that can cap off his career is becoming Mr. Johnson. So why is it that when I watch Ron Odom, I feel like he's the best player? Every time I watch Ron Odom play, I feel like I'm seeing something special. Like I'm seeing something that I'm not gonna maybe not see again. He said that for a long time. He said Russell was my favorite high school player in Georgia. I don't get that feeling that I'm seeing something I'll never see again.
Must see riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. In the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. What is it that America has failed to hear? It failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It's failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. It has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. So in a real sense, our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. As long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again.
It's the Love of the Game podcast. I'm your host. Normally, this is a basketball show. But now's not a basketball time. To state frankly, I don't give a fuck about what's going on with basketball right now. The words that we just heard from the late Dr. Martin Luther King, who in times like this, everyone loves to post memes of his marches, quotes from him, but I seldomly see the 1966 quote that we just heard. That riots are the voice of the unheard. I felt that was applicable as we start today's show with everything that we have going on. I understand that a lot of times we have to be very political because we're all basketball people. We all have jobs. To let everybody know, I did talk to the fellas before this show, and I gave everybody the opportunity to opt out because I knew what type of time I was on. I also said, hey, guys, maybe I shouldn't be here because I was worried about what I might say. And I'm happy that my boys decided to roll with me. So we in here. 1966 to 2020, and we're still trying to explain the cause of riots. Normally we have a pretty scripted podcast, man. Normally we get into sports talks. This would be the time that me and Madlock are cracking jokes on each other. Bryce is joining in. We talking about, Bryce's frequent flexes. And we have a pretty cohesive show. Today, we are kind of gonna rant a little bit. Been time for a change. I'm with you. So fellas, let's get it in. I'll just open it up. We have a guest. on the show, so let's get to it. I'll try to get to an intro. We'll try to make it a little bit cohesive, but let's go. 805 Pride. We got the head coach of Holy Innocents High School in here. Coach Huff, how you doing, sir?
Been better.
No doubt.
Been better.
No doubt. We got Bryce in the building, assistant coach of Creekside, and 17U coach for the Georgia Canes. What's up, man?
What's going on?
Locke, owner operator of Locke's Way Hoops, and the founder of the Freshman U Camp. What's up, bro?
What's good, man? What's good, fellas?
Joining us today, man. Normally it's under much better circumstances. We have the head coach of Kennesaw State University men's basketball program, Amir Abdul Rahim. Coach Rahim, what's going on, man?
What's up, fellas? How y'all doing, man?
What's up, Coach?
What's up?
Man, normally we get together. It's a joyous occasion. Kind of hard to do that with everything that's going on. I think everybody watching kind of knows how I get down, but I'll toss it out there just for thoughts, feelings. I think I've talked to each of you guys. I kind of understand where everybody's at, but I think it's important that we talk about what we've been talking about privately, publicly. Man, how's everybody feeling? What we thinking?
Dude, I ain't gonna lie. I honestly want to go on a ride because the stuff that's going on, I've been going through this for years down in South Georgia. For years.
Yeah.
Before I was 18, I was handcuffed twice. I'm still in high school. So I got my nieces and nephews at the age of 16, 17, and I see them, they ride with me. I'm telling them that I've been handcuffed. They can't believe it.
Yeah.
They look at them, they look at their uncle like, you been handcuffed? I'm like, yeah, I got 10 to 12 tickets before I graduated high school. I started driving at the age of 16. And majority of my tickets are DWBs because of the cars I drove. I was in the old school car. I had a Cutlass, 1985. I had a Grand Prix T-Top. But like I say, I was a good kid. I grew up my mama was a Jehovah's Witness. I grew up going to the Kingdom Hall. But I steady got getting pulled over because they thought I was a drug dealer. I got my car checked so many times.
I think, and people listening may feel like that's a small thing, but I want people to understand that I share Locke's experience. As a grown man, bought a house, got married, had a kid. I was 23, 24 years old. Had never been in any type of trouble. I think until we start sharing these experiences, I think the people who you think have never had a run-in with police or never had a negative altercation with police, that's just not true. So because we're quiet about these experiences, that people think that it's not happening to us or that we don't know that anybody that is happening to, and it goes from small things to big things. My dream car was a box Chevy. So when I bought as a grown man my 86 Cutlass from my cousin when he sold it to, Caprice. When I bought my 86 Caprice Classic from my cousin, that was a dream car for me. That was something like people going buying an old Mustang or something like that. And the fact that I couldn't keep it because I got pulled over too much, that I sold it. I got rid of it.
You had to.
I had to. Because being handcuffed while people and sitting on the curb while people are searching my car and never finding anything because there was never anything to find.
That's the most embarrassing thing on the main street in your city, and you're handcuffed sitting there.
So people
they can't find nothing.
Understand how those experiences begin to build, and you start to have a distrust for law enforcement. I explained it like this. I had a brother that I call a friend. I won't say it that way. He is a friend, a Jewish guy, and he called me over the weekend. I want to thank everybody that reached out, all of my white brothers and sisters that reached out. I appreciate it. But it was a tough conversation because he told me that he had never thought about this until I posted that the first time that I had ever seen a gun up close was from a police officer pointed in my face when I was 14 years old. So he said, I hope you don't think this is weird, but please explain to me your experience. I never would have thought that somebody like you would have these type of experiences. So trying to explain to him that, hey, brother, you're Jewish. You should definitely understand how I feel. See, there was never a connection made between the pain of his people that came from Hitler and other to the pain of my people in this country. I said they hold monuments. The people who did what they did to your people, they're not allowed to have statues and monuments and their names on buildings and things like that in Germany. There are no Adolf Hitler monuments. But the people who have done things to my people have statues. They're on the faces of our money, right? They also don't really care for Jewish people, but you don't wear it on your skin in this country. Unless they asked you, it's hard for people to tell, right? So you may not, it's hard for me to understand how he doesn't understand. But
I don't think they would ever understand. They don't walk in our shoes. Like I explain to people at my job all the time. I say I cannot be myself. I say it took me years to grow my hair out and my beard at my job because I always had a feeling that my coworkers gonna look at me crazy. Why you got a beard? Why you growing your curls out? Why you don't have the even all over with the goatee? Where I start, I'm like, because that wasn't me. I was doing this for y'all so I can get the job and stay on, but that wasn't me. That's not Metlock. I wanted to be myself. It took me years to get that way.
Nobody knows what it means to be black unless you're black. And they've never understood or tried to understand what it means. I honestly I don't know if there's a black man out there that hasn't experienced something about being pulled over, myself included. If anybody that knows me, I used to have dreads that came all the way down to right here. And to be told I couldn't get a head coaching job because I had dreads, yeah, I've been through that. I mean, Amir can tell you that there are many times in college basketball that this right here, it wouldn't go. Yeah. It wouldn't flow. Because I don't fit what the profile should look like as an African-American coach.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna jump in. You know, it's interesting. You know, I guess it's because of the profession that I chose and the profession that I love. And my thing was always wanting to give back, to impact, right? Like, you know, young men of color, you know, because I've been through what they've been through, right? But it's something I learned a long time ago. And I'm just sharing this, and this is not a shot at anyone, but man, I learned a long time ago in this business, man, if I'm worried about why people don't understand, man, I'm giving my energy to the wrong thing, man, right? And I'm slowing my progress down, right? And so, like, when I look at everything that's going on, obviously, like, man, we're all like, man, I'm frustrated, you know what I mean? Like, to be truthful with you, man, I'm numb. I'm actually numb to the police brutality because we've seen it so much, right? Like, numb to a point where, man, it's like it literally has me thinking. Like I'm like over here now, like I'm thinking, because again, think about this, right? I can vividly remember seeing Rodney King, right? But I was at a young age, right, to where I didn't I understood, right, but it didn't affect me like the things of the past, 15 years have affected me, right? The Mike Browns, right? The Tamir Rice, the Trayvon Martin, the list goes on, right? It's almost like, man, like there they go again, right? And it has me thinking in a sense like, well, why the hell do they keep getting away with this? Right? Like what, so I'm like numb to that. I'm frustrated because, it continues to happen. And in a sense, like right now, like it's getting swept under, like getting slowly getting swept under the rug, right? And that's partly because the oppressors, right? But then it's partly because, like, man, we got to be able to keep the main thing, right? You know, and I mean, I'm pissed. Like, you know, for the first time as a head coach Saturday night, man, I had to get my team on a Zoom call and explain to them where we are, what we're doing, why these things are happening, right? And then educate them on, hey man, look, if you ever get pulled over, this is the protocol. Like, I think about my brothers. We deep, right? I got 13 brothers and sisters. I got 6 younger brothers. And to know I have to, whether it's me or my father or my older brother, have to educate them on, hey, look, man, like, you know, who you are as a man and your pride, man, don't ever lose that. But it's a certain protocol we have to have in this situation, because they'll take our life and they'll not think twice about it. So, man, I'm frustrated. Man, I'm pissed. You know, we actually, you know, we have man, you know, Tanner Smith's on my staff. We have a couple white kids on our team, a part of our program, you know, from our managers. And the thing that I want our guys to understand is, slow it down and understand it's not a white versus black thing, right? It's a right versus wrong thing, right? 100%. This is a right versus wrong thing, okay? So don't get sidetracked, because that's what the oppressors want. They want you to get sidetracked with the rioting and the racism. And right away, when people think racism, they think white versus black, right? Yep. Like, man, keep the main thing. So it's just one of these things, man. Like, and some people will say, man, well, you know, they think people are in a position to speak or not speak. Man, I'll try to stay away from it, to be honest with you, right? Because again, it's still taking the attention away from the main thing. I could sit here right now and go through a list of whether it's college coaches, so on and so forth, or people that I think should be talking. That's what, yeah, okay, cool. But nah, man, I'm not putting my energy there. I'm gonna put my energy on keeping it towards, you know, this justice for George Floyd, this social injustice, right? And changing it, because that's what needs to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think I talked a lot yesterday, because we were kind of talking about it, and Dre, and Coach Huff was occupied yesterday, but we were just talking. And I mean, the thing is, like, I don't think other kids have to, and it starts at a younger age. They don't have to realize, they don't have to go through the things we go through. You know what I mean? It's like when I was 18, 19, I had my first job, and I'm pulling up into the parking spot, and I step out of the car, and it's a police officer in front of my face. So, I mean, and I don't know proper protocol for stopping somebody, but I'm pretty sure that, you know, they stay in their car, they turn the lights on, they're not in my face. I mean, at that moment, I could have been gone. I could have made one gesture, and I would have been out of there. And that's what they don't understand. Like, even 2 months ago, I got pulled over, and I'm just going to lunch from work. And the police officer says, "Didn't I just stop you the other day?" Nah, actually you haven't, because I haven't had a ticket in 4 years. Yeah. So you're assuming because you saw my car with my rims on it, that you stopped me. But no, sir, that wasn't me. And so people don't understand that. They don't go through that. It's like, you know, I could be in a Benz, I could be in a Nissan, it doesn't matter. If I don't fit the build, if I don't fit the description of how you want me to look and how you want me to do it, you know, you're going to find a way to do what you want and try to get away with it.
I think that was the thing that I tried to explain. And we're going to get to next steps and actions. So please don't think that we're going to come on here and just vent and leave. We're going to get to next steps and actions, but there are some personal experiences that people need to hear and understand from people that they know and respect. So what I've tried to convey to people and try to get people to understand is, and I said it like this, I said, if you've ever stood across from somebody or been in a confined space with somebody who you knew, you could look in their face and knew that they didn't mean you well, that they were looking to do harm. That is a look in a situation that any human being can understand and can come to grips with, right? We've all been in a situation, white, black, indifferent, where there is another human being who is trying to or looks like they want to harm you, and we understand how that feels. Now imagine if that person had every right, by law, to harm you, and you knew that they would get away with it. You could not defend yourself. I was like, now imagine being put in that situation over and over and over, where you're defenseless in that situation. How would that make you feel? Over time, eventually, how would you respond? I was like, man, this narrative that the news and the media are inciting us to rage is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard in my life. The only thing the media is doing is making us relive personal experiences.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's where the frustration is coming from, because people are actually living this. And we're coming to grips with the fact that on the day that the anniversary of the Tulsa massacre, basically, where they bombed and set fire to Black Wall Street, that is today. 1921, they went into Tulsa, Oklahoma, and this is why it frustrates me when I hear people tell the protesters to go home. We need to be more organized. Black Wall Street was very organized. They had Black-owned businesses, and Black people were hand in hand supporting each other. They burned it to the ground, and there were no consequences for it.
None at all.
And that's not the first time that happened in this country. It's not the most recent time, because they took out an entire neighborhood in Philadelphia as well. No consequences behind it.
This Dre,
action.
Dre, the thing I think that frustrates me, because you're 100% right. Like the protesters, like, man, you got to be out there. Your voice has to be heard. We have to continue to use our platform, right? But the thing that I have the issue with, from a media standpoint, is that all they will show the looters 10 times over, and they'll show the people protest one time.
Yeah.
Right? They'll show it one time. Okay. That's the issue I have, because now when you start looking at CNN or whatever your news outlet is that you watch, right? The scary part about it is that, think about this, man. Like in the last day and a half, if you really sit down and ask yourself, and this is for the people who are watching too, how many times have you heard them say the name Derek Chauvin, the officer who murdered George Floyd? You hadn't heard him talk about it. You hadn't heard him. You barely heard him talk about George Floyd. The only time you hear George Floyd is when they're saying the protest that broke out because of the murder of George Floyd. 100%. They're not talking about how the injustice that he endured, right?
Or the fact that Breonna Taylor's killers are still free.
Exactly.
Never even arrested.
Right. They're not even talking about Jaylen Brown's protest when he came down.
My point. Right. So we're sitting here like that, and that's part of the frustration, because Dre, you're 100% right. Like, man, I'm on the side of the protesters. Like, our voice has to be heard, right? But like, man, like if we're sitting out here, and the truth of it is there are people that look like us busting out windows and running up in stores, and those people are taking the attention away from what the attention should really be on, right? Again, I'm gonna go back. You're gonna hear me say oppressor a million times on this deal tonight, because there are so many different things that cause oppression, right? That people we don't want to put the spotlight on that.
Amir, that's been my whole issue, is that for so long America has failed to address the problem of systematic racism that's been going on in this country before the speech that you showed at the beginning, Mondre. And we've tried to gloss it over, even as African Americans. We've tried to gloss it over, partly because we have more money now. Mm-hmm. And we think, oh, we're good now because I make a little bit more money. Nobody's going to mess with me. Mm-hmm. And the same stuff continues to happen over and over and over again and we've done nothing about it because we haven't let our voice be heard in any way, whether it's a protest, whether it's a riot, whether it's even saying it out our mouths that there's a problem.
Yeah, or we just go back to, like, in a sense, like the thing that bothers me is it's like, again, like I'm looking at the same cycle, you know, of the Ferguson situation, right? Where it happened, right? And then they protested, right? We protested. And then, you know, the riots broke out. And then the whole story became a riot. And then it was like a week later, people were tired of hearing about the riot and they were talking about something else, right? So again, like we've got to pull it back to what the main thing was, right? Because like you said, like y'all talk about getting pulled over, man. And again, my experience ain't greater or lesser than anybody's. But like, man, imagine doing what we do for a living, right? And it could be y'all driving to a tournament somewhere, or me driving. You know, I'm let's just say when I was at the College of Charleston, I'm leaving Charleston, going to Florida, and I'm in the South, right? And this areas down there, man, like you get pulled over, it ain't no civilization out there. And I'm driving in a sense in fear that, and you know what, like, man, I'm gonna go the speed limit, right? And I'm gonna make sure I'm doing everything right. I'm gonna put this turn signal on. It ain't nobody close to me.
Shirt tucked in,
all of that,
all kind of stuff that don't even matter.
So it don't even matter, right? But it's we're living in fear. But like, is that fear enough to change and keep the main thing, keep the pressure where it needs to be? Because right now, like, I'm just keeping it 100, right? And I could be wrong, and there may be people that disagree with me, but right now, like, man, this is slowly going the way it's always gone. And we're about to lose out again.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk about, so I want to get to it. When we talk about let's keep the main thing, I've even been questioning myself about this. What we want is equality, right? What we want is justice. What we want to know is that what we're asking for is not the ceiling. What we're asking for is the floor. What we're asking for is that if I get murdered in the street, that the person who shot me will at least be taken downtown for questioning.
Well, Dre, this is the, and I'm sorry to cut you off, right? Sure. This is the problem, right? Think about this. Like we're talking about, like, that's a great question, right? That's a great thought. But this is what I'm saying. It's like we've got to look deeper than just, okay, he's able to do this and they're able to get away with it. Like, I tweeted it out, and I'm not even one of these big, like, man, I'm gonna just regurgitate, you know, something that I read somewhere else, right? But when you start to understand, like, the systematic oppression, man, it's deeper than just this man putting his knee on his neck. He putting his knee on his neck because of the law enforcement officer's Bill of Rights that basically says, I can kill you and I'm gonna get 10 days, right? Yeah, to figure out my story and get my representation. 10 days. He cannot legally talk to anybody, be forced to talk to anybody for 10 days if he is still considered a police officer. It's a real struggle out here. So we talk about the voting and why it's important. That's why it's important. But man, again, go ahead, Dre. My fault, man.
But hold on. You made a great point. I know we're going on different angles, but people have told me, and I've gotten real upset when people tell me, well, we done voted before and nothing has changed. But here's my point. No, we voted for major elections, and we've done nothing for our local elections that put in our prosecutors, that put in the mayors, the councilmen. We don't go vote for those.
Yep.
I had a white coach even tell me, I'm sorry, because I haven't voted in 7 years, which is allowed what's going on now to continue to go on.
I would love to understand what I question is when it comes to voting, is finding candidates who run on Black issues. I'm gonna be honest, I try to keep up with the local elections and government and participate in voting, but I cannot find a official that's running on police reform.
Man,
it's almost like police reform is being talked about as a dirty word. What I would love to see from the federal level is what just happened very quickly to Antifa. They were labeled a terrorist organization very quickly at the federal level, right? What I would love to see, and this is me personally, I would love to understand why and see why would the KKK and other white supremacist groups, neo-Nazis, be protected in this country. 2016, there was an FBI investigation against a civil rights organization, and they found the KKK as the victim. It is perfectly legal for someone to march in our country streets with a swastika. We fought a war against that idolatry. We fought a war against the Confederacy, but it's perfectly okay to fly that banner and march in that name in this country. Why are they protected? Even at a federal level, big time elections. That was my disappointment with the Obama administration. That can be done at a federal level. I understand. I'm not disagreeing at what needs to happen at the local level with judges when it comes to fixing our education system. I am totally on board. Prosecutors, the whole nine. I'm with you, right? I've been tweeting and emailing with John Ossoff's people, and he's running for Senate right now, trying to understand with this new Civil Rights Act that he's trying to put in place, exactly what that means for us and exactly how he plans on getting that passed. It's a great idea. I want to know how he plans on getting it done if he gets my vote and he wins, right? But as a country, at the federal level, we've protected, not just looked away from, we have protected white supremacy. That is the part that I am calling, that I plan when it comes to action, right? When it comes to this election, if Joe Biden wants my vote, that's what I want. Root out white supremacy in this country. Take a real stance against white supremacy for the first time ever and root it out in this country. We're so quick, we're moving very quickly with this Antifa thing. And I don't know anything about their group and really don't care. But white supremacy is not a black problem. That's a white problem. And I expect them to fix it.
Dre, I still think it goes back to we never have addressed the problem. And I hate to use this analogy, but it's like an alcoholic. They don't say they're alcoholic until they address the problem. So you can't even get to what you're talking about until we've addressed the problem that there has been white supremacy, that there has been issues that have been going on for years. And maybe this is the beginning. Unfortunately, it's taken so long, but we can finally get to the point where the issue is up front in our face, no matter what your skin color is, for you to actually see what the hell is going on.
I agree. Mom, I love you. Trump did say that they were good people.
Yeah, I mean, but and it starts at the top. And Dre, I go back to even like something that you said. You played the issue with the Obama administration, right? And I'm with you on that. I mean, the book, we were in power 8 years, by Ta-Nehisi Coates. It talks about it, right? But at the same time, too, think about this now, Dre. When you the president, right? You really only as strong, right? As what? As Congress and the Senate, right?
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. And think about this. Obama, and again, I'm not trying to get off, but he was called a liar as he was speaking. Mm-hmm. If you talk about white supremacy, right? Nah, we ain't that ain't gonna never become, I shouldn't say ever, but it's gonna be hard to make that a terrorist group or change that, because a lot of times the white supremacists are the people sitting in those ranks in the Congress, in the Senate. Right? So that's why
in the police station.
Right. So that's why it's important as we get to know our local officials, our local congressmen, our state senators, right? Or who's running for it, to know what they're running on, not just to go to the voting booth and say, yo, I'm gonna fill out Democratic because I know the Republicans are for XYZ.
Now you preaching, Amir. Now you preaching.
You feel what I'm saying? So that's where we got to be stronger. right? But again, I'm gonna go back to this. So we keep the main thing the main thing. The problem with us half of the time is that we'll be up in arms, Dre, fellas, for 2 weeks, and then
there we go.
The next Nike shoe come out.
There we go.
That's the main important thing.
Or whatever else is going on, and we right back to the same stuff.
There we go.
Yeah, because I've been seeing more people been more concerned about the EYBL canceling.
Yeah,
like not even important.
That's not even important.
It's not even important. I had somebody send me something this morning. It was like a skit Lil Duval did, right? And this is a person I love, and I had to hit him with, man, hey man, like, look, man, that's not even funny to me right now.
Facts. Move around.
Like, man, like, go ahead, man. That's not funny to me right now. Right. And so the fact that we still want to make jokes out of it and still like, man, like that's where we like us,
yeah.
Right. Like, again, man, I'm gonna talk because, man, and just share, because like I look at these questions of somebody, they asked the question the other day, why doesn't America love Black people like it loves our Black culture? Hey, man, like, the hell with all that, man. Like, look, man, why don't we love us like we should, right?
100%.
And if we did, right, then now we become one. We become what we're supposed to be, and we're powerful in that. Okay? So, all I'm saying is, man, like, all right, like, we know what the issues are. So now let's figure out a way to really, really take hold of this thing, man, and make a real change.
I feel like, Coach, and when it comes to making the main thing, again, like, I'm really moved right now, and I'm open to hear additional leaders, because what I also feel like happens is we have so many issues, again, because like what the word that you keep saying, oppressors, oppression, and there are items to fix in our education system. There are items to fix in our neighborhoods. There are items to fix when it comes to getting business loans. There are items to fix when it comes to getting healthcare. The one thing that I plan to personally, when it comes to holding our local officials to the fire, our government officials, what are you going to do to eradicate white supremacy in your area? If you're running for the school board, what are you going to do to eradicate white supremacy out of our school system? What are you going to, if you're running to be a judge, what are you going to do to handle the fact that Black people and white people are getting charged with the same crime, convicted of the same crime, but Black people, it's been proven, I'm talking about facts, are being sentenced to longer sentences? What are you going to do to handle white supremacy in your chair? I feel like that's the one thing that I'm going to continue to ask from a basketball community, and I've been strong in this, bro. If you have a building named after a bigot, if you have Confederate statues on your campus, I'm not going. What are you going to do about that? And that's just like, I know that's not the thing for everybody. I just feel like for me, that's where I'm at with it. Like, if you want a man up kid and your building is named after one, no. The answer is no. For me.
And we have to be okay with that. I think too many times we get into this fight with each other about what's okay for you and what's okay for me. Mm-hmm. You know, what Martin and Malcolm were standing for in the 60s, they were still trying to go for the same thing. They just went through different tactics to get there.
Different routes. With the same finish line.
Yep. What made me sad, Huff, though, is that it is when Brother Cam and the sad part about it is I thought about what he said to me last night, all night. And I woke up this morning and I felt like he was right. When Cam said, Dre, ain't nobody gonna do that. Because when they come to drop the bag, nobody is gonna not send their kid there. We don't have head coaching. I come from a time where Black head coaches were larger than life, bro. John Thompson, Nolan Richardson, John Chaney were larger than life. But it's because when they came to our gym, they had their pick. Coach, what you need?
And it changed. I'm telling you, it changed because
I agree.
We got some privilege. Well, I make a little bit more money. I got a little bit more of a brand, of a reputation. So it does not matter.
Still matters to me, bro. Can't come get mine. Like I said, I love, and I'm not shouting at anybody. I love, I don't even want to bring brother's name up, but there are people who work at institutions, assistant coaches that I love and respect. But I'm sorry, I don't believe what your institution stands for. And unless you're fighting and working within your institution to create change, brother, this is a child. I'm not sending that child over there to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're an adult. You work for change. You deal with it. I'm not sending my child to go deal with it.
I know Huff posted a real tweet earlier this week, and they got a lot of retweets. And I've kind of just been scrolling my timeline and looking to see who's
retweeting it or liking it.
Yeah, who's tweeted and stuff like that, or how long it's taking them to post something. That to me is important. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, it's easy to craft a message and post a tweet.
Most definitely.
Like that doesn't, like, it's cool, but are you really going to do something? Are you going to do something to change? And like, I really don't care about seeing any more tweets. I don't really care about seeing any more of your your stances. Like
those crafted posts. Like
the crafted posts don't mean a damn thing to me, bro. Like it means nothing.
Let me ask this question, Coach. Maybe I'm being irrational with that thought. But you've coached all over. You've coached high major basketball for a very long time. Are we wrong with feeling like some of these coaches or some of these high major institutions really have power? Or does it stop with the presidents and the ADs? Do the coaches have less influence than maybe I think that they have?
Man, no, they have really, really powerful influence, very powerful influence. I mean, and again, we see it, man. I mean, what do they say? The power is in the money, right? And you look at, some of the money that these guys are getting paid, it tells you they have real influence. Okay. And so, man, what I love for some of these big time coaches to really come out and make a stance, like, yeah, but the truth of it is, it ain't they fight. And that's how they look at it. They'll put their crafted posts out. They'll say whatever they're supposed to say, right? But again, until it truly affects you, right? I can say what I say, but man, I've said, it's the end of it. Whereas again, I talk about purpose all the time, right? Purpose, like what do you do what you do for? Okay, like man, let's keep it a buck, man. Like I ain't proved nothing as no head coach yet, right? But a head coach ain't who I am, right? Before I'm anything, man, I'm the son of William and Deborah, right? Before I'm anything, I'm a black man. Before I'm anything, 100%. Right? And I'm not losing that. I'm not gonna lose that piece of me, right? But I'm not gonna sit by idly when I've sat in the living rooms of white and black kids and told their parents, look, I'm gonna be the role model for your son. I'm gonna be the example for your son. And that example is as a leader, right? Not to just fly off and say whatever. No, it's to educate yourself so you understand what you're talking about. Okay. And then go from there. Right. So I'm not gonna sit back and nah, man, yeah, it's sad. I'm pissed. It's everything under the sun. But now I'm to a point now, it's like, okay, what's next? Like, how do we change this? Because I don't want to let it go away in 2 weeks. I keep it above. I don't want to get back to June 15th when we can have voluntary workouts, right? Because the truth of the matter is, you know what, man, in a week after they get back, I could have a kid pulled over for being black. And now we got to deal with this issue all over again. So, yeah, it should be people in higher power and in higher positions that have the majority of their team that are African-American young men saying more. There's no question about that. There's no question about it, right? But are we going to fight that fight? Or are we going to fight the fight of, man, the social injustice, the cops, the police brutality, right? The systematic oppression, right? Are we going to fight that fight? Or are we going to say, well, man, I wish this dude over here, because, man, he getting every 5-star McDonald's American McDonald All-American that's African American to his food. Man, that ain't my fight, man. Like, they gonna be who they are, right? They gonna be who they are. But at the end of the day, what's righteous is gonna win. Simple as that.
No doubt. I think for me, calling those guys into the fight, I say that because I wonder, and I ask this as an honest question. Is this a fight that we can fight alone? And when I say alone, I mean just us as African Americans. Do we think that that's a fight that we can go at with just us?
That's a tough question.
I may be one of the few that, if we truly believe what we believe, and that we all stand on this earth to love one another, no matter what your skin color, then it's not just a fight for us. It's a fight for what's right. And if what's right is what we're after, then it's going to take more than just us.
True. Right.
I agree. I am one that I understand how powerful that we as African Americans can be, that we as Black people, Black men can be, Black women can be. I love what our sisters are doing right now. I do. My sisters are killing it right now. I love it. However, that if, to me, the most dangerous population around are the people that just turn their eyes away from this, that would be disgusted by it if they watched it, but they have the option of not participating, so they don't, because there's no consequence for turning away. I feel like if we are able to put it in their face and that there are consequences for not joining the fight, then I believe that we can get change. I don't know. And I honestly believe, and I'm saying that because and I'm going to say this again, I honestly don't believe that white supremacy is a Black problem. And I don't think that it can be fixed by Black people alone, because it's not our problem.
It's not.
We have so many problems in the Black community that I think that we can fix. I'm so with Killer Mike that we need to bank Black, have our own food banks. Like, he has a million great ideas that I am 100% for. But I don't think that telling young Black men, hey, this is how you need to conduct yourself, this is how we're trying to keep them alive.
That's what it is, Dre.
That's what it is, yeah.
Oh, problem. You see what I'm saying? We're trying to get them alive.
Yeah.
And I agree with that, right? We're trying to teach them how to communicate better. We're trying to teach them to educate themselves and value themselves. We're trying to teach them to strive for positions of power and influence. And I agree with all of that, because all of those things helps us resolve issues within the Black community. But white supremacy is not an issue in the Black community.
Right.
It's an issue that impacts us, but that's not our issue.
There's nothing we control.
I don't think that we can fix that issue. Just me. I think our job is to put it in the face of the people who can fix that issue, because they need to go home and sit around that table during Thanksgiving dinner and have an uncomfortable conversation with that cousin that they know is racist.
Yo.
They don't have to have that. Like, white. I have white friends that know they have family members that are racist, and that, you know what, they just, hey man, we don't talk to that guy. We don't deal with that guy. No, you need to go do that.
Hey, dude, I got some close friends who tell me, yeah, my dad, if you come around my dad, he's gonna call you an N-word.
100%. I had my son dated a white girl, right, last year. And I was so proud that I didn't have to tell him what my mom told me. My mom used to tell me, if she can't use your comb, don't bring her home. And it wasn't because she didn't like white people, right? She loves people. she thought that me dating a white girl immediately put me in harm's way because of where we lived. So I was happy about the fact that I did not have to tell my son that immediately as a 8th grader, right? But his girlfriend came back and broke up with him because her dad didn't like black people.
Exactly.
Thank God she did the right thing. She might have saved his life.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to get the white people who agree with this and understand that this is wrong to go home and have some uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
But I mean, Dre, how do you know? And that goes back to my point on Twitter. How do I know what white person agrees?
And I think,
Go ahead, Trey.
my thing would be who's willing to come out in the streets with us?
True.
Who's willing to use their platform, lose a sponsor or two?
Who's
Because
willing to join the fight?
out.
Who's going to join the fight?
That again, I'm just thinking out loud, fellas. That's
I think the question is who stays in the fight, not just who joins. Because think about how many of them. I mean, we done had a lot of people, man. Right? Like, man, look, I grew up all over Atlanta. Right? I graduated from Wheeler High School, a predominantly white high school. Some of my best friends, right? Some of my favorite teachers, okay, are white. Okay, man, look. At the end of the day, they've been there with it, but who's gonna stay? Who's gonna stay? Right? Like we talk about going home and having that hard conversation, right? The truth of it is that even the ones, right? It's what's the old James Baldwin quote where he says, "Man, these people have been deluded so long, right, that they don't think I'm human." It's not what they say, it's their actions, right? So, like, who's gonna stay in the fight? Right, so that's why I go back. That's why I go back to the argument of, man, like we've endured for 400 years, right? And we got to keep going because, truthfully, we the only ones that's gonna stay in the fight.
Right.
True.
Right? Like Madre, I'll even go back to this point, man. This is getting off of the main thing, right? But I'm gonna get off of it for 1 second. What you said about these universities, right, that have bigots on buildings, statues, right?
And I'm talking about University of Kentucky. Let's make things clear.
But check this though, Madre. Think about this right here, though. Think about this though. We're so caught up in wanting the American dream that we'll sell our soul for anything. The American dream. Like somebody give me that definition. Somebody, I want to know that definition, right? Because the truth of it is, right, the American dream is being true to who you are. That's the American dream.
Exactly.
You feel me? So yeah, like so I think Cynthia Carr put up here a second ago, college athletics could influence. She's 100% right, it can influence it.
I agree.
Right? But again, I'm gonna go back to who are you? None of us are perfect. Don't get me wrong. I ain't perfect. I ain't on no pedestal, right? Mm-hmm. But like I said before I'm anything, I'm a black man. Mm-hmm. Right? So in certain places, just the truth of it, man, I'm never working. I'm not working at certain places. I ain't doing it. Because of what? Maybe because of what that state stands for. Maybe because of what that school may have stood for. Like I'm come on, man. Like I'm not doing it. So again, I just go. We gotta shift it to how do we continue to change the narrative and keep the narrative locked in on the things that truly matter, right? Like check this out, right? How do you get the law enforcement officers' Bill of Rights changed? How the hell is that even a Bill of Rights? How the hell is that even a law? Why is that passed?
Yeah.
Think about this right here, right? Just researching and reading. Man, do you realize in the state of Rhode Island, which is in the Northeast, okay, that's not considered the South. It's not like, because everybody thinks about the South and they think about, well, the South is racist. Do you realize in the state of Rhode Island, okay, that when a police officer, like if they committed, like have an incident as they call it, okay, where they do something with the law enforcement officer's Bill of Rights, okay, they get the 10 days, but then when they come back and they go to their review board, okay, or whatever it is, there are 3 investigators or 3 cops, and they get to pick one of them.
Wow.
They get to pick one of them. So it's 14 states. Check this out. And this is how it goes. It's 14 states that you can look up and you can find that Minnesota is one of the states that has that Bill of Rights. But then then people say, well, that's only 14 or whatever. Okay, cool. But then you look in those contracts, in those police union contracts, and that same language is in those police union contracts. How do we get those things changed? That's the conversation that needs to happen. Those are the things that we got to talk about. Those are the things we cannot let go. Like, that's the problem. Like, Killer Mike, he said it, like, Killer Mike, man, I'm just telling you, man, that dude, he needs to be the dude that's the voice of if we're gonna mobilize and organize, he needs to be at the front of it. Because what he's saying is 100% right.
And he hasn't just been saying it just the other day. He's been
saying it forever. Yeah, he's been saying this forever. So we like, I just keep saying, man, you wonder why we keep going through it, man. I saw a list the other day of all these names, man. It's like 3 rows. I'm like, how the hell is this happening still? But now you let one of us go and do something, and it's bang, it's over, and ain't nobody up in arms.
Mm-hmm.
It's just another black man falling by the wayside.
The stark difference and the crazy thing about the case in Minnesota is that the police officer's Bill of Rights did not save the young brother that was a police officer that shot a white woman in Minnesota.
Ain't that crazy?
He was arrested immediately and given 12 years in jail.
Yep.
And he shot her in the pitch black dark, could not see her, and shot her. Immediately arrested, convicted. When I say immediately arrested, there was no 4-day period until rallies and protests broke out. He was arrested. He was arrested immediately on the scene.
But and fired. What was it? Fired an hour after whatever happened. So yes. That's why, because now he's no longer considered a police officer.
A police officer,
right?
It is incredible what we are going through as a country to avoid arresting like 6 people total. When I'm talking about the 4 officers that were involved in the George Floyd situation and the officers in the Breonna Taylor situation, where they went to the wrong house, kicked in the door. The suspect that they were looking for was already in custody and shot Breonna Taylor 8 times and arrested her boyfriend for attempted murder for trying to defend her when he fired back. Those officers have yet to be arrested, but we're talking about looting. I'm with you, Coach. The main thing got to stay the main thing. I'm with you.
Yeah.
100%.
I keep it a buck with you. Like, let's look right where we are, right? Let's look right at our state. Okay. If it had not been for the video that came out, the guy and his son and whoever recorded it, they wouldn't have been arrested. But okay, cool. What about the DA, the prosecutor down there? I mean, what about the people that swept it under the rug for two months? Like,
2 months, yeah.
We ain't got nothing there. Don't worry about that.
White supremacy has to be held accountable. They should be in jail.
It ain't just white supremacy, bro. What about yesterday? What about the 2 AUC students that were pulled from their car and tased? I love Keisha Lance Bolivar, but we ain't heard diddly squat about that yet.
Hey, Coach, you listen. I try to stay off of it because y'all already know how I feel about that. But I agree that everybody has to be held accountable, including her. There's no exceptions to that, man. It just ain't, man. Like, You know, I understand how we feel about Georgia, how we feel about Atlanta, and I'm gonna be honest.
Somebody just put up, they just got fired. But why did they even like? I'm glad they're fired now, if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
But why did it have to take so long? If
awesome,
Amir's talking about, as soon as that officer in Minnesota was fired immediately, as soon as we saw that video, them pulling them two out the car,
they should have been gone.
Fired immediately.
They tabled the hell out of them too.
And I think, and again, I'll go back to Dr. King's statement. If you don't want riots and looting, we have to handle things that contribute to white supremacy in this country. We have to. These root, and I said, my kids were talking about it, and before I said anything, I just listened to them. I listened to them talk. And they was like, you know, my kids were like, man, you know, this looting stuff is crazy. And like, I don't agree with that. And I was with them. I would never condone breaking into somebody's place of business and stealing their stuff. Right. But I asked my kids, I said, were there riots last week? Were there riots last week? No. There were not. There were no riots last week, bro. Like, I feel like trying to address the riots and the looting instead of addressing the real problem is like going to the emergency room with COVID and they giving you Tylenol for the fever. You're not addressing the problem.
Right.
You're addressing a symptom of a problem. You arrest these officers right away, the momentum of those protests never build to riot.
Never happened.
Changes everything. Changes
the game. Yep.
Never happens.
But again, I'll go back to this. Don't fall for the okie doke, right? From a standpoint of this, like they arrest officers, but then we peacefully protest. Don't forget, man, they're sending undercover police officers out there to incite. Don't forget that. Let's not fall for the okie doke. That's the one thing that's frustrating is it's like, okay, I do see a good amount of us out there, right? I do.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like in Minnesota, right? The dude that had the gas mask on in the hoodie, somebody take a picture of him, his ex-wife is like, oh man, yeah, he an ex-cop, man. Like it's an ex-cop out there breaking windows. Right?
Yep.
So imagine what's going on right here in Atlanta.
I posted for anybody who's watching and wants to understand what we're talking about. I have videos posted all up and down my Twitter timeline of individuals dressed in all black, breaking windows, starting fires, spray painting objects, setting up pallets of bricks before the protesters get there. And when they're actually confronted by real protesters, they run away. There are people being sent to incite this type of conduct.
And when you ask the question of why are they being sent, they want to change the conversation. They don't want the conversation to stay on George Floyd.
The question that I ask is who has the most to gain by the changing of the narrative? Who has the most to gain is the question that I keep asking by having rioting and looting breaking out and the narrative being changed from the protests and the officers who are still free to things being or our Target store being burned down when Target already said, you know what, we're good, we're insured, we're gonna rebuild that thing, no problem, we straight. Who has the most to gain from that? I think until we understand that this is a system of oppression in this country, that we still, even with everything that's going on, we won't come out and say, you know what, man, white supremacy is really wrong. Like
you know what?
About leadership.
Yeah, no, it is about leadership. But like, think about it, Dre. Like, man, again, it starts with leadership, but the dude that's the leader of this country,
Yeah.
He is literally reciting rhetoric from
Mm-hmm.
the 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
You loot,
We start shooting.
Whole campaign was run off of it.
Or I should say even before that. Like, come on, man. Like, right? So again, it goes back to like voting, right? Voting. Like and then like not only voting when you got Biden and Trump. Okay.
Yeah.
This is why it's important for us to really pay attention to the primaries when you got a guy like Bernie Sanders, right? When you have I think it was Kamala Harris, right? When you have these people that are there, like you don't think they're gonna try? Like that's why it's important. Because I don't care what nobody say. Y'all can feel how y'all want to feel, right? Like if I walked outside and saw Joe Biden, man, we're gonna have an issue. Because who the hell is he to question if I'm black enough?
I'm black.
Because of who I vote for.
We got major problems.
We got major problems.
Like, major problems.
Just understand, right? If we don't take a stance, right, today and start this conversation and keep this conversation going, like look who we got running, and we got to vote for. We got to choose between one or two of these dudes in November. What are we talking about right now?
Hey, this is a very good question that I wrestled with. That I wrestled with.
No,
I
can't do it.
Absolutely not.
I'm gonna tell Shannon this. If today Trump came on TV, 709, we'll be out of here in just a second. If Trump was on TV when we got off this podcast and he said, you know what? White supremacy has run rampant in this country for far too long, along with Antifa being labeled as a terrorist organization. I'm going to put a stamp on white supremacy and all these neo-Nazi groups. I'm going to a full FBI investigation. I'm going to put the CIA. I'm going to bug their phones the same way we bugged Martin Luther King's phones. I'm going to follow them the same way and sit in their services the same way we did Malcolm X. And we're going to federally prosecute anybody who is a white supremacist. Is going to be a federal crime to hang a Confederate flag in this country. I vote for him. You gonna swing it that far? Trump, you got me. I'm good.
I still ain't voting for him.
You know that's not gonna happen though.
No, it's not.
Yeah, but no,
he's snitching on his homeboy.
But all I'm saying is I still ain't voting for him, right? Because I know for a fact all he doing that for is so people like, oh yeah, we gonna vote for him, right?
Yeah,
it's all they just had it on the news today, right? It's a split between his cabinet, right? You got people saying, man, you need to come out and take a strong stance, right? Then you got people saying, man, you gotta be careful with it, because those middle of the road voters come November, like it's all a game. It's a game to them.
I don't trust any of them, and I think what you said was so important, Coach. Who's gonna stay in the fight? I don't trust any of them to stay in the fight. I don't trust, man. Bernie is the only candidate that I would trust to stay in the fight, and they will not.
And let's make it clear, that's who Killer Mike has said for a long time,
for years after years.
I want. We have so many problems, and we could have this show for 3 hours. What's the next step for our solution?
Vote.
I know it's voting. I think it's going back to other stuff. Like there are people out here that are not even completing the census. That's part of it. That's part of it too.
I'm guilty of that too. I
just had to do it today.
Yep.
I'm not lying. I had to do it today.
My wife, she just said that to me. She's like, no, we got to sit down. Like, I bet. But that's the truth.
There are people who say it again, huh, if I missed it. I'm trying to read this comment before.
We got to vote.
Yep.
We got to do the census.
Mm-hmm.
We have.
I'll fill mine out.
Yeah, I did mine a long time ago.
But then we have, but on top of that, we have to start paying attention to who we want as our local leaders, our congressmen, our congresswomen, our senators, right? Like the one who quiet about all of this, right? Just where's our governor at? You heard?
I haven't heard a word.
I know who we would have heard a word from, but
yeah, I heard him say something quicker about the Republican National Convention
Come on.
Yeah. Like, so Huff, you say, where do we start? Like, one, we start by making sure the conversation continues.
Yeah.
Right. That's one. Okay. Two is, man, we have to make sure we understand which bills, which policies, right, are being voted on, are being passed, are being put into law. Right? We got to start understanding that, man. Like, cause I know this, man, and I ain't never really thought about it like that, right, until I was probably, mid-20s. Man, I got 2 little girls, man, that I need to grow up in a world where they have equal rights, and they really believe in their hearts that they can do any and everything they want to. I got younger brothers, man, that are younger, like way younger than me. It's still, man, like it's got to be changed, man. It's got to be real, man. Like we cannot let this momentum go.
Right.
I agree. I think that police officers' Bill of Rights, police officers' contracts, negotiations is something that we need to be aware of. Huff, I know that you're already taking action, and you guys are meeting with police and things like that. I would love for you to ask that question about are those contracts public? Who decides what goes in? Who decides what goes out? Are all questions I would love to understand. And how do we get involved? And this is a great one.
Ooh, that's big time. Yeah.
Paid attention to sheriff candidates. Police reform starts there. I agree.
Yeah.
Best believe. Now that is one thing. I've looked at local elections when it comes to judges and all that stuff. I've not really paid much attention to a sheriff election. I haven't.
Yep.
It's a great piece of information. Best believe we'll be looking this time. We got to keep that conversation in their face. I think I want to make sure too that people understand that this is a far-reaching issue. So I want to address people saying that, well, we need direction from the Black community as a white person to understand what we do, and the direction of what we change is not clear. And that's because it's not just one thing, right? So I want to show a video real quick of just understanding that to take down a system, we're not taking down just one thing. It may begin with police reform, but the fight isn't over. We're going to have to fight long past that to get things changed. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull this up for us, man. This works better when I have split screen, but I don't right now. My other monitor is kind of tripping, but just hold with me for 1 second, man. I want to make sure we show this.
It isn't the rebels. Lighting fires. It isn't the media exposing the reality.
That's some real shit.
It might work better if I share the sound. I don't know if I had the sound on.
I heard it.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
my bad. Here we go. I'm sharing again.
It isn't the rebels lighting fires. It isn't the media exposing the reality. The problem is the reality. Just look at the last 3 months. Forget about policing. Look at the toll of the pandemic. More people of color are getting sick and dying. Why? Less access to care. More minorities are losing their jobs at a faster rate. Yet they make up the higher percentage of those at work right now in jobs deemed essential. Imagine how that feels. Helping more and being helped less. They stand a greater chance, minorities, of getting stopped for wearing and not wearing masks. Those government small business loans, they didn't go evenly to the majority and minority. Most went to the majority. In one America, people rage for the freedom to get a haircut and a tattoo. The other is raging just to be seen and heard. One America says, They won't wear a mask because when they jog, it's uncomfortable, not necessary. It's an affront to their liberty. One has renewed fear that going for a jog could get you killed. One America insists their need for football is so sacrosanct, there can be no kneeling protest on the sidelines. Sons of bitches. But is not outraged by a cop kneeling on this man's neck? Doesn't make it okay to riot, says the majority. But doesn't it depend why it's happening? A riot in Boston Harbor started the fight that amounted to America. Cities burned across the continent in 1968, again at Stonewall. In each of those cases, it was the minority manifesting a desperate plea to be heard and for change, just like now. A friend of mine, celebrated American and African American, asked me in a broken voice, why doesn't America love us? Why do they do this to us? And he wasn't just talking about this latest case, he was talking about all of them. And by America, he meant me, he meant you, the white majority. And you can listen to those who put it on the minorities. Violent.
Wanted to make sure that I share that.
Real shit.
We're talking about something that is oppression, right? We're talking about having an oppressor and what that actually looks like. It's across industries. It is across multiple channels. Shows itself in multiple different ways. It's being pulled over for driving while black. It's also being followed around the mall just because you look suspicious. It is also having our history ripped out of textbooks and being boiled down to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X as if we haven't made other contributions to this country that are larger than that. But to me, it's also about how we as a community treat our HBCUs.
Facts. Big facts.
Mondre went and I don't know if he was how long the professor was there or if Huff took him, but I know when you go to HBCUs, especially like when I was at Morehouse, we took African American psychology with Brother Black. And at that moment, when you're in college, you're learning about the oppressor, and that's something that should be in our schools. Like, why are we not teaching our Black psychology and our Black history to our kids? I
think in the same way, the reason why we're not sharing our stories with other people, I think because it makes people uncomfortable.
Right,
and that's what we got to stop. Don't care about their comfortability right now. They've got to hear our story. They have to.
That's the only way they're going to know. They don't walk in our shoes on a daily basis.
And it's not, we don't need sympathy.
No.
We need empathy. There's a big difference.
Very big difference, Coach. That says a lot, Coach. That's one sentence, but that says a lot. Not looking for sympathy, man. Not looking for a handout. We don't need that shit, man. We want to work. That's why I found what the NFL did is so offensive. Wow. I don't need a handout. Don't give somebody an extra draft pick for fucking hiring me. That is the most offensive fucking thing that, like, I'm so done. I've been done with the NFL for 4 years. I'm never going back. Fuck them. That is the most offensive rule that I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. People think that Black people really love affirmative action. We fucking don't. What we would like to do is just be able to apply for a job and get one when our credentials meet
based off our work.
Yeah.
Based off of our work.
Yeah.
We hate that shit. It sucks that we have to have it. We don't want jobs based on
terrible. That shit is terrible.
It's awful.
It's awful.
Chris, love you, bro.
The OG.
Coach, I'm sorry. I think we cut you off. We went on a tangent, man. Go ahead, Coach.
Oh, no, man. Y'all was good, man. Like, I was just thinking about, you talk about, our history being ripped out of textbooks. Man, you know, it's certain kids, man, I've recruited, you know, junior college, you know, high school, and man, think about this, man. Or even a transfer, and they may have taken an African American studies class at their previous institution. You know it doesn't transfer. Think about that.
Wow.
Not even an elective.
That's crazy.
That's wild. That's wild.
It is unfortunate, Chris, that we continue not to teach it. Unfortunately, we have to live it. I think I got a chance to see Roots when I was a kid in school, and I don't even think they're showing that anymore. My kids have never seen it.
No, they don't. No. It was mandatory to watch that and do a book report. It was mandatory.
You know, there are many schools that don't even do Black History Month anymore, man.
Yep.
Yeah. If they do, it's short.
Not even a whole month.
It's not a month, a week or two.
Yeah, man. I think there's going to be some time there's a lot of work for us to do, fellas. And I'm going to get ready for us to close. There's a lot of work for us to do. There's a lot of work for us to do. But I think we can all agree that the silence of ignoring our experience and just trying to be the bigger man and pushing forward needs to stop. And I feel like we've all, to some degree, done it because we don't, we're not complainers, man. We all workers. We're all grinders. We're all, have had a certain amount of success in our profession because of that. But I think that uncomfortable silence that we have of just pushing through. One thing that I'm going to do starting tomorrow when I go to work, no more work voice. No more code switch.
Hey, Drake, I started doing it like 3 years ago.
I don't think that white people that I work with know that I don't talk like that.
I've been stopped doing that. That's why I said I got more comfortable. When I started growing my hair and my facial hair, I'm like, this is me. Because when I started seeing people at my job having Donald Trump bobbleheads, making America great in their office, but then people at my job like, are you gonna wear a Kaepernick jersey on Jersey Day? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
If he can have his Donald Trump stuff, I'm gonna wear a Kaepernick jersey on Jersey Day.
Let's not say that to be funny. That's not a joke.
Yeah. Let's just start being unapologetic.
I had somebody that I call my personal hero, and I don't know if she's watching, but I work with a lady named Lynn Lucas, and I call her my hero for something very simple. Like Lynn used to come to work, big afro, like dangly earrings. Like sister had the new hairstyle every week. Like she was the first person that I ever met at work that was unapologetically Black. Mm-hmm. Like walk past smelling like shea butter and coconut oil. Man, I love Lynn because I admired her because I cut my braids off. I took my earrings out. I changed my voice every single day to make people more comfortable. I told jokes that I didn't think was funny. I laughed at shit that I didn't think was funny just to try to fit in because I wanted to feed my kids every day. And she was the first person that I ever saw who was as successful, even more successful than I was at work every day, that was so unapologetically Black. And I often act like, how can I change now? Like, I'm so, like, it's so, like, I feel like those things happen when you walk into work without even thinking about it. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a conscious effort come Monday morning. For me.
I'm glad to hear that, Dre. I'm glad.
Sure. How many Georgia Standards addresses African American history? Thank y'all for sharing. I mean, I can't ask that question. I can't answer that. I don't know. Bryce.
I don't know the Georgia standards for history off the top of my head, but I would assume that it's probably not many. I know a lot of kids take the Georgia studies class, but they ain't learning the stuff that I don't think they learning the stuff because the kids will walk throughout the hall and you can tell they would be able to tell you some things. They're not excited about the class. It's not tapping into their history. So I don't know.
Hey, Chris, you want to jump on with us and help us answer that, man?
Yeah, I can't speak on that, really.
I'll shoot you a link, Chris, if you have an answer on that. I would love to be educated on what that looks like. I'm about to send you a link, Chris. Just reply in the chat if you can make it. If you could jump on and educate us on that, that would be great. Cool. I'm shooting it over to you now. I would love to understand how we specifically get those standards changed. Who decides that? When is it decided? All of those things.
The Georgia professional standards, the PSC, that's probably how you get the standards changed. But I know it's like to change anything. I think in education, it's the same thing as it's getting a law change. It's a process. You know what I mean? And it takes a couple months and things like that, and it takes a lot of people. So I don't.
Second grade, MLK and Jackie Robinson. That's it. That's all my babies get.
Pretty much.
Sad.
Man, my nephew, he didn't know who Nat Turner was until we watched the movie.
And a lot of times, honestly, depending on who your administrators are, you can't show stuff that's, too far away from the standards because you could get in trouble. So,
hey, I'm here. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So when you look at the idea of Georgia performance standards from a U.S. history perspective in high school, it's very far and few between. It's interspersed. They make sure that you talk about African American culture through slavery and what things they did to look to keep that culture. And honestly, they skip. They'll talk about some slave uprisings and revolts, and then they just kind of jump to the civil rights movement. There's, and as a teacher, I'm fortunate enough I'm able to teach at AP level to where we're able to look at the actual primary source documents. We're able to look at the things that most history teachers don't talk about, because we know that the history books, if you think about history, it's the idea that it's written by, the winners. And unfortunately, the way the books have been written, they skip over everything, just from African Americans and all minorities and women. It's like they just choose to ignore the stuff that's happened within our country. I'm trying to pull up the standards here right now as y'all are talking.
Chris, would you happen to know are those standards voted on? Are there things that can be put in? Are there meetings that we can show up to if we want to impact change in that way?
Obviously, with anything that goes through, whether the Department of Education, it goes through local school boards or other history teachers. I'll be honest with you, I'm going on year 14. Whenever they look to change it, it's the idea that the standards, they want to, try to say, hey, people, we cover history as a whole, in totality. But unfortunately, in doing so, they only focus on the positive. Because this idea that if you focus on any of the negative, they think that you don't love your country as much, you're not being an American as much. We need to address everything that's happened during the founding of our nation. And this is, I had Dante hit me up the other day, yo, Watkins, good, because I haven't been around much the last 3 months. It's frustrating. And me being a history teacher and a history major, that when you go to talk about those things that make people uncomfortable, that drive those conversations, how are you going to tell, a black student in your class, hey, you get 1 month? No, we need to intersperse. We need to talk about what's going on. We need to continually address all the situations. We can't talk about what's going on now without talking about what was going on in the 1900s, the 1800s, 1700s. This is something that I'm truly passionate about. So I appreciate you having me on only for a few minutes. So
for sure.
No, for sure, Chris.
Hey, Dre. Systematic oppression.
Yes, sir.
I'm telling you, man. You keep looking at it, man, and it's deep, man. Like I didn't even know that. Like, Chris, thank you, man. Like, I didn't even know, because the same thing. You read about it, a chapter in the history book, maybe. Like, I think I remember having U.S. history. I think it was Miss Love class at Wheeler, maybe a chapter or two, and it was over. It was done. But the fact that they don't want to talk about the negative, like the negative, that like in a sense, like the thing that makes me think is this: like you don't want to talk about the negative because it may spark the mind of the person that changes it at that age.
Now you're talking, Amir. Now you're talking.
Correct.
And Shannon Milson is giving us some game here on history as well. I'm trying to catch up with you. 3rd through 5th grade, civil rights and Civil War, depending on the admin teacher, they change a lot. Example, Civil War was about states' rights, and they will not say right to keep slavery in a lot of schools. Wow, we're teaching the Civil War without slavery in some schools?
That's crazy.
That's wild. And these comments are coming from educators, so I don't want to speak without knowing things. So we bring on people who know stuff about what's going on in the school system.
Yeah, I mean, I'm scrolling through right now. You talk about the idea, transatlantic slave trade. Again, you talk about a couple slave rebellions. You talk about the Civil War. You talk about the expansion of slavery in Western territories again, though, but you're not talking about African Americans in our country. You're not talking about their struggle during any of that time going up, leading up to the Civil War. You talk about 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments, the lack of their success because of black coats, KKK. And honestly, then it skips all the way, Pless versus Ferguson and NAACP, then it goes Civil Rights Movement. But you don't, within the history classroom, unless you're at that higher level, you're not spending a lot of time on that. You're not, honestly, but from a history teacher perspective, you fly through everything because unfortunately that's how much they have you covered. Kids that are able to take the advanced level classes, they're able to spend more time. There is more freedom. You are able to dive into it because it's more about the critical thinking and the reading and that skill as their assessment. But unfortunately, the way, our Georgia DOE sets up a test, the kid has to know everything throughout history, not necessarily at that higher level, which is unfortunate.
What I love about our group of people, man, we got people of all walks of life, man. Shout out to Jermaine Jones, NBA vet, on here. We got some people that we can make some changes go once we educate ourselves on exactly what's taking place in our neighborhoods. That we can make some stuff change. Shannon is saying that testing companies own public education. That it all goes back to lobbyists and government. I don't understand. I'm not even going to play and act like I understand what that means. Chris, can you shed some light on what Shannon's talking about?
I mean, the idea that when we created the educational system, the idea that came up with the No Child Left Behind, and y'all are kind of cutting into my 2-page thought on this whole ordeal on my post tonight, but that they created a system in which we as educators were chose to teach to a test, not necessarily teach. And, I see a lot of nodding those here in the classroom. We're not teaching history. We're not teaching math. We're not teaching. We're saying, this is how you are supposed to perform. Here's the skill you're supposed to know. Here's the specific content you need to know, not necessarily in depth, because this is what helps you do good on the test, because that's how we judge schools. And unfortunately, especially in lower socioeconomic institutions and schools, that when those schools didn't do well on those tests, they got less funding. So those teachers, were driven to do that test. And now that you've switched to a different model, they've now made it easier for schools to now ignore those students that struggle in schools, because they're not going to shift the pendulum enough on those test scores. So they focus on the kids, your kids that are your struggling students and your outliers, which a lot of times are minority students, not due to anything, a lack of their own. Right? They do work hard. They are grinding, but that's the idea of a response intervention and putting those things in to support those students. But school systems ignore them because they're not going to shift. They're not going to move them from an 88 to a 92 on the CCRPI. Correct. And that's the educational system that we've developed here in America. I mean, that's,
So I ideally give us some game. And Shannon, jump in the comments, give us some game on, like, ideally, how should it work?
I mean, when you look at teachers, and Shannon, obviously jump in, I'll see it. But we're evaluated on our performance on test scores. They don't look at us and, hey, you're grinding every day. Students love you. You're making them think outside the box. You're there in the morning. You're there after school. You take them home. You pick them up. You buy them lunch. You do everything that a good person should do. They want to look and say, oh, well, only 60% of your kids pass the end of course test.
Right.
But they're not looking that maybe 60% of kids passed that end of course test this year. But 2 years ago, when they took the Georgia Studies, only 40% of them passed. So we've increased learning. We've increased free thinking. We've increased, just students being open to what's going on. And that's how schools are evaluated. And until they change how schools are evaluated, that's the system that's going to be in place, unfortunately. And people don't want to have those conversations. When you start to push and you're talking about what about this population of students in our school, especially if you're not in a predominantly minority school or lower socioeconomic school, if you're in a very affluent school, and those of you that know me, Huff, I know you know where I was at before I'm at now. I mean, that when you're the person in that room and you're bringing up those ideas and those numbers and you're looking at the specific statistics, they don't want to hear that. I mean, there's been times where I've been at meetings and I'm bringing it up and I'm told, hey, you can't talk demographics. I said, cool, I'll say last names. And I say those last names don't sound like my last name. Those people don't look like me. And, I got asked to leave the meeting. So until you have more people pushing, and there are amazing educators that push for the change. But unfortunately, those of us who are in the classroom on a daily basis, we're not the decision makers. You have people making decisions that haven't been in the classroom in 20 years.
Is that just school board decisions, Chris? Is that where it comes from? If we want to start making phone calls, if we want to start writing letters, who do we?
It would be your state Department of Education, which they're currently trying to tell teachers that they want us to work more days for less money. And they said we would do that whether or not we cared about the kids. So, I mean, your idea of like teachers, I don't know if y'all saw that article, but that's essentially what the push they're making. They're wanting teachers to work less. They want us to be furloughed, which is fine. Like, I understand the economic situation. You want me to be furloughed? Cool, I'll stay home. Right. But in terms of if you want true change and what teachers are beat upon, and those of us that try to go above and beyond, we end up getting told to teach 2 and 3 preps. So, but in terms of you want to make actual change, it's the State Department of Education. Nope, they're most definitely not educators.
So we know what we got to do. We know what our plan of action is now. We know who that we have to target at this point, and now it's up to us to start doing something. I mean, I guess I'll look at it as we're all basketball guys, man. People don't know that you're a basketball guy. You're a coach as well. So that coach now, and also I got to congratulate you too, brother. You've reached a point, Chris, where I don't have to see your watermark on your highlights to know that it's you. The film is that good. The film is that good. So you're doing great work for our kids. I appreciate that. But we're basketball guys, man, but we preach education all the time. It's why we're so passionate about basketball, because we're passionate about kids getting an education. But we never address what they're being taught. We just push to say, go be taught.
Go learn a skill.
Right. And we've got to push. We've got to make some very calculated decisions about who we allow to educate our kids, I think, and how they're educated. State Department of Education. Are those? I'm assuming that, and I'm sorry, I'm completely ignorant to this, Chris. Those are officials that are voted in at that State Department.
The Department of Education, they're generally hired people. Your local school board would be voted in. But again, the standards come out. Generally, when you have your standards, there was a switch went from No Child Left Behind, the idea of Common Core. I mean, most states pulled out of Common Core. The largest emphasis on education, that is true. The large education, we look to how everything shifts is that, many, especially in Georgia, that local school systems kind of have their own autonomy, but we are all driven as long as we have high stakes testing, which Georgia, fortunately, is really pulling back upon. But as long as we have high stakes testing in which schools are judged by, we are locked into those standards that are provided. But the push is to get rid of those high stakes testing, and focus more on the higher level learning and teaching, and not just judge a student or a school based on a test. And so that idea, once that's gone, then we're more open to what we teach. But again, the best teachers, we're going to teach what needs to be taught. We are going to say, hey, we need to spend more time on this. Kids, they know about the American Revolution. We teach about that, right? But we might need to spend more time, talking about the difference between both, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and how they approached it and what the significance of it is, right? We need to teach outside the box. We need to teach the history they're not going to see every single time they open up a history book. And the best of us try to do that, as well as we can.
It gives me a lot to think about. Chris, I appreciate the great information, man. I appreciate you jumping on last minute and kind of helping us. I think we're going to have to circle back and continue to kind of educate ourselves. I know I do, on our education system, how it works and how we can press for change. Because I feel like, along with the immediate felt needs of needing police reform and that police officers' Bill of Rights and understanding how that impacts us and getting that change, getting our education system cleaned up and getting that change goes a long way.
Yeah, it's a much longer story. You can talk about the disproportionality and suspensions and things that happen with our American school system, but that's like a 4-hour conversation. So for sure. I definitely appreciate you having me on, man. It's been good, man. It's been about 2 years since I've been on here, so thank you for having me on. I'm gonna go finish up.
Appreciate it, Chris.
No doubt. Appreciate it, Chris, man. Hopefully the next time it'll be we have you on, it'll be a little more festive.
I might trim up my beard or something before then. So
hey, welcome to the beard game, Chris.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll see, but guys, we got a lot, man. Huff is off to his meeting. Huff is actually going to a meeting tonight to start meeting with some coaches who are meeting with some police officers and trying to help us understand how we can affect change in law enforcement. So I'll be looking for the output of that from Huff. This is not a group that just gonna come on here and talk, man. We're trying to get busy.
Yeah,
we're trying to get busy. So that's our show for today, man. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Here's what I want everybody to do. Go to the Love of the Game podcast YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe. Turn your notifications on so every time we go live, every time we have a show, you'll get a notification that we're here, because this is not the last time that we're going to have this conversation. There are going to be updates, action items of next steps and things that we're going to do to impact change in our communities. If you don't like YouTube, go to the Love of the Game podcast Facebook page. Like, subscribe, turn your notifications on. Twitter, every social media outlet, we have it. Follow me at Mondre Allen on Twitter. What do I think of the Blackout Mama? I love it. Don't go to work. Don't buy anything. To me, unless we make them feel it financially, things don't move. But I'm for making everyone feel it, and not that I hate anybody. We don't have any other course of action. But to me, having a blackout day is another form of peaceful protest. I think our two walkaways are to impact our education system. To understand everybody, we got to figure out state by state what the contracts look like for our police officers in our area. Is there a police bill of rights in your state? I'll be looking that up. The 14 states will list them that Amir talked about. We'll list them, but also, as Amir mentioned, if there's not a bill of rights, it may be in the police officers or police department's contract, that same wording or verbiage of how they're handled when they have an incident. I believe that it's all of us, right? Everybody who hates what happened, that's the first thing that we have to understand, and that we have to get changed and figure out how we can change. Make sure lock in with us, follow us. The more information that I find out about that, that's going to be the first thing that we attack. So if you're looking for a plan of action, we're starting there. The more information we'll find out, state by state, we'll be sharing that. Precinct by precinct, we'll share it. Right now, I'm just being honest. I don't know how it works. I'm reading about it. The first time that I've ever seen one was today. But we'll be sharing information about how we can continue to share information about how we impact change. But stay in touch with us. Look it up in your state. Tell us what it says. Let's figure out how we could do this nationwide with all the Love of the Game podcast crew. Until then, man, y'all be safe. It takes a whole new meaning today, but be safe, be blessed, man, and keep rocking with us, man. We'll be back Thursday night. It's the Love of the Game podcast, man. We out.